Live from somewhere in a living room near you. It is me, Smitty. How's everybody doing? Wow, I already got 3 of you in here. What's up, Mr. Fowler? How we doing? We have the cat's relaxing on the wife's lap behind me. Kind of cooled off. It's been kind of rainy and cool day here. So how was everybody's week? Trying to block the TV so it doesn't get copyrighted here. Excuse me. Yes. Okay. Not too bad, Corey. I'm going to blind you here for just a second. All right. Wow. That made it all sorts of blurry and stuff. There we go. That's a little better. Doing wonderful. Been a rough week. What's up, Steven? Yeah, they've got me buried at work right now. I've had transmissions left and right. It seems like it's Colorado week this week. Had a 6L80 I wrapped up today. Drove it and got it gone. But they've got me snowed under with Colorado's. Got a strange one. It's got a 8L45, which is an 8-speed. Same, that's just like a baby 8L90. And he's got reverse only. You put it in park and it acts like you're power braking it against it when you rev it. And so you put the thing in reverse, it goes in reverse. You put the thing in neutral, it goes in reverse. You put it in drive, and it doesn't go anywhere. North Carolina. What's up, Mr. Biggs? Glad to see you join us. Corey, I'd say I'd agree to the job security, but I don't know if if you've had the pleasure of working on one of them, they're kind of an engineering marvel. Somebody thought it was a bright idea to put a starter underneath of a motor mount, and you have to take the motor mount and the bracket out to get the starter out, because that's the only way you can get the torque converter bolts out. So they're not my favorite vehicle to work on by far. But got some weird issues. I got a Malibu I got to get out on Monday. That's what they call a 6T40. I tried to tell them they just need to put a box in this thing, but it's an aftermarket warranty company, and they want me to take it out and tear it down. And I'm pretty sure the thing's going to be trashed, but whatever. Anyway, the just about ready to wrap up L to the W700 R4. It just takes a little bit of time because we're doing so many modifications to it. Make it bigger, better, and stronger. We have the technology. We have the skill. Although I don't think it's going to be bionic by any means. But yeah, I looked at the forecast for this next week, and it looks like it might actually turn out to be sunny most of the week, which will be nice. I'm ready for some sun. It's been raining a lot, and we're not even in the rainy season yet. Are they dry? Sweet. That's right, $6 million man. What's up, David? Thanks for the compliment. I'm glad you're enjoying the videos. Like I said, I just really hope to teach something, or somebody picks up on something that they can use. You know, usually I can do one of these transmissions pretty quick, but it just takes a little longer when you actually have to figure out how to teach it. You know, so how warm did it get out there, Stephen? Was it pretty decent? It was raining about 53 here all day with a breeze. So it's kind of chilly. What was that? Nice. Yeah, I think we're supposed to get some of that weather next week. I think the forecast showed like 70s, and I think towards the end of the week it's supposed to be like 81 for a high. So maybe we'll get a break. They're saying that the hurricane season here usually starts June 1st. And I had a buddy of mine told me that they moved it up 15 days. It's supposed to be like May 15th. Okay. Yeah, should be able to. Yeah, car show weather. Do I ever hold turbo 400s? Oh, build 400s. Yeah, the 400 turbo is the same as a 4L80. Basically, the 4L80 has just got an overdrive in it, but that's a surprisingly simple transmission. I tell you what's really a simple transmission. You wouldn't believe it, but the 6L80, that thing is easy to do. I mean, that is such a simple transmission, the way it's put together. The only reason why they usually fail is the torque converter comes apart, sends all the debris and stuff through the transmission, just takes everything out. But it's a surprisingly simple transmission. It's pretty cool. I thought about using those in one of my cars, but you have to get the right computer system to operate it, since it's got the TCM inside the pan. There's a couple of companies out there that, well, at least there's one company that I found that actually makes a kit for it. It's like a standalone controller. But I don't know. It'd almost be easier to find a harness and stuff that's already set up for it and just modify the tune in it for whatever you're using. I'd really think it'd be cool to put an 8L90 in a third gen. If I get a chance, I'm so busy right now I've got, a couple of transmissions out there right now that I'm working on. And obviously I'm trying to get L to the W's done, finished up and everything, so we can get him back on the road with it. I'd love to go to some car shows again. I know there's a couple of them that are down there around the Tampa area. There's a couple other YouTubers that are down there. I don't remember exactly where, but one of them's Fireball Mullet. He's here in Florida somewhere. And there's a couple of others. But Fireball Mullet's got a really nice looking IROC. I mean, that thing is sharp. So is L to the WZ28. What's your all's opinion on doing LS swaps in a third gen? Are you for it? Are you against it? What's your preference? When you think of IROC, what do you think of? Do you think of tune ports? Do you think of what? Or it's just, do you like just the looks of it? What's your all's thought on that? Yeah, I mean, that's what originally when they got on board with it in 85, and they ran it from 85 to 90. And then they just went back to the Z28. What part do you think would be awesome, Kenny? Yeah, Stephen, I think even just with the technology they got today, they were rated 235 or something like that, anywhere between 215 to 245 is whatever they were rated between the 5 liters and the 350s. Well, that's a good point, David. I like that. Corey, I'm going to challenge you on that question, though, is what's to say that you can't do more with a first-gen small block that you can't do with an LS? I mean, granted, most of you find a 6.2 or something like that. I mean, you could do a 6.2 and a Gen 1 small block with some good heads. Yeah, the tune port has a tendency not to breathe, but that's where the LS comes in. If you've ever driven an LS that it's comparably equipped, say you had a 350 or a 5.7 LS1 versus an old L98, or not even that, maybe just a tune port. Or if they were the same, say the pickup trucks, that's a good example. The 350 in a pickup truck versus the 5.3, there was a huge difference in torque. And that came from the smaller runner design. That's where the LS comes in. They've got a huge intake runner. I mean, 200 plus cc, you know, most of them are 208, 220, something like that. Where as a factory small block head, I think we're anywhere from 165 to maybe 180 cc intake port, which it's not going to breathe as much up high as the larger port. And so it's a trade-off. You lose some of that low-end torque for that high-end horsepower. And that's always the way it's been. The only time your torque and horsepower is going to be the same is 52 RPM. But if you put them side by side on a graph, the smaller runner is going to create more torque. And to me, that makes a better street engine. I mean, now if I was doing all-out racing, yeah, I'd probably do an LS also. But I mean, for something I'm going to drive on the street, the seat of the pants feel would be better with a smaller runner intake like a tune port has. And then, of course, then there's First TPI that's out there. And they've got a large runner. It's still a large runner, but I haven't found anybody that's done a dyno graph in between a standard tune port and the First TPI. And I'd be real interested to do that one. I think that would be pretty cool. Just put some good heads on it, like some, I don't know, build a stroker, make a 383 out of one, and put a Richard Holdner. If you watch him, he did a test with tune port, had a 383 with AFR 195s on it, and the thing made like 500 something foot-pounds of torque. I mean, something stupid like that. But, it made it all below 5,500 RPM, which most of the time when you're driving something on the street, that's where you're going to be anyway. And that would be awesome. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd still like to do an LS swap, but, I'm pretty much going to keep with a tune port for Scarlett. Just because it's just going to be a street car, something I might take to the strip once in a while. But I know from having those third gens in the past, the best gear for those cars is a 342. And it doesn't matter if it's a manual or automatic, but, cruising RPM, you're still, 70 mile an hour, you're still turning like 2,200 RPM with a 342, which is fine. I mean, that's not going to hurt anything. And Stephen, to answer your question, with a maybe a tune port that's been gone through a little bit, with the right injectors, I would build a stroker. In fact, I think that's probably what Scarlett's going to get. Oops, I let the cat out of the bag. But not everybody's going to see it, so not everybody will know. But you know, like I said, Richard Holdner did a test on it, and I'd probably follow one of his tests. And he got like, it was something stupid, 400 and I don't remember exactly what it was. It was, like I said, though, it was over 500 foot-pounds of torque, and it was like 440 horse out of a tune port, that had been extrude honed. I think he said, with a little different throttle body. And man, I tell you, that'd be freaking fun on the street. I'm telling you. Yeah, Dave, the 5.3s, the point is the 5.3s, they do run really strong. You have to get them wound up a little bit, though. I mean, they just make their power at a different RPM because of the way they're designed. Low-end grunt, though, usually with a smaller runner like that, the 350, I think would be, just because the size of the intake runners and that kind of stuff. That's where the 350 made the grunt just a little bit lower. The LS just took all that and moved it higher up in the operating range. So, I mean, yeah, they both have their pros and cons either way you look at it. So, dang, that's cheap, Corey. That's not bad at all. There was a guy that bought one that I knew that was back up where I was at. It was carbureted, though. But apparently it was like a 383 with a 5-speed. And but I used to run around with growing up. He had an 84 or 85, something like that. He had a 383, and he put a 383 in his. And that was a running dude. And he started off with an automatic, and he kept breaking the automatic, so he put a T5 in it, of all things. And believe it or not, that thing held up. Of course, it just smoldered the tires half the time. So I think if it hooked real hard, somebody put some slicks on it or something, probably either the rear end would say hasta la vista, or the transmission would, one of the two. But then I know guys that have had Mustangs that go through transmissions like butter. They're kind of like glass. I guess it all depends on the driver. Yeah, Corey and Steven, I think it all matters on what the market will bring in that area for that particular car. Say you built one and all of them down here are going for like same price, $7,000 or something like that. But you could take that thing to Coastline or something like that, where they're in super high demand, and get double that, It's what the market is in your area to what it'll actually bring. Excuse me. But been kind of looking around for tools and stuff. I've been looking for a little shop press, and I got one that's been online. I found it on Amazon, and every time I go try to see if it's there, they're out of stock. And I don't know who exactly it's made by, but I really don't want one of the Harbor Freight specials. Some stuff in Harbor Freight's great, but some of the bigger tools I don't care for. And Harbor Freight's hand tools are just terrible. Corey, I don't see why not. Your car is what you make of it. I mean, the only one that's going to notice that that's not an IROC is probably going to be you, unless somebody looks at the VIN real close or the option tag. That's where they tell it. But other than that, and Kenny on the 4L60, I'm building a 4L60E for myself and Scarlett, so that's coming up before too long. I got another story about the 4L60. If you guys go back through my videos and you see where I built the one for the kid that of one of my fellow technicians, he stopped by today and at work, and he goes, "Yep, transmission's still doing good." And I says, "And I beat the crap out of it," and with this big shit-eating grin on his face, and it was just funny because I says, "Well, I mean, that's what you wanted it to do, and then it's doing what it's supposed to." So I'm happy that he's down the road with it. And well, I've run into that before with aftermarket bracketry on a carburetor. Sometimes the best way is to try to adapt a factory bracket setup to the carb that you're using, or like Holly has got a kit, I think, for GM for setting the TV cable so that the range of motion is correct. Like I said, I've seen that problem before. A lot of the chrome brackets or something like that, they don't sit in the right position. I don't know if I can find that or not. Yeah, Holly's got a kit. It says, it says a kickdown cable bracket. I don't know if that would work for a TV cable or not. Probably not. But that's a 20-121. Speedway has one. I don't know how that bolts on. This TVI correct kit for quarter jet carburetors. Doesn't say anything about Holley, so it probably doesn't work with Holley. Let's see what this says here. Go to Holley's website. Yeah, it does. 700 R4 kickdown lever attaches a throttle lever on Holley 4150 or 4160 carbs, designed for vehicles 700 R4 automatic. Includes bolts and transmission. Corrects geometry for throttle valve cables. Okay, but it also says the part number should be used in conjunction with transmission kickdown throttle cable brackets, such as the Holley part number 20-95 for a steel one, or the 20-112 and 20-119 for aluminum brackets. The 20-121 is not designed for use on early model Harley carbs, Holley Dominator, Chrysler, and Ford specific throttle levers. So there you go. 20-121 should be compatible with what you're looking for. The Holley kit was installed. With both pieces installed, Will, or just the one? The only thing I can say is if it is, and that's the case, I'd make sure that the button's not blocked or something like that, or not the cable. Well, without actually seeing it, the only thing I can think is if there's something limiting the movement of the cable itself or the cable bracket. Okay, so it did have the two pieces in it. The only thing I can think of is, okay, well, if both pieces are on there and you're still having an issue, what I would do is I would play around with the cable. If you have to take it out of the bracket to adjust the cable, maybe that's the way you need to do it, and just kind of test it so it's got the right pull on the bracket. It did say that it doesn't work with all the Holley carburetors, but the 4150s and 4160s is what it was designed for. So I don't know what specific car. Same issue with the original and new cable. Also trans chains. So you've had a transmission change too, and it still won't adjust correctly? That seems kind of odd. $41.60. Yeah, it should work with that carburetor. Yeah, I mean, if that was the case, then I would. If it was me personally, I'd just start playing with it, manually, and if I got to adjust it that way, slide it in and out of the bracket a few times till you get the right tension on that cable. Because obviously you can't run with it disconnected; it'll burn the transmission up. Yeah, it would be too. I think L to the W ran into a lot of problems just getting his cable to adjust too. When he put his, he's got a first TPI on his Z28. So he ran into a lot of problems with his cable adjustment. In the Sonics kit that I'm putting in this, I've got a SureCure kit for his, and the TV cable comes with a little bit shorter link, and I'll show you when the videos get posted and stuff like that how that works. But then there's another piece that you're actually supposed to shorten the cable. It's actually got like a spring and a cup that goes on the end of the cable that I don't know if it adds a cushion to it for some reason. I haven't put one of these SureCure kits in a 700 before, but I know I've put them in a 4L60s and 4L60Es, and they weren't great. So, how you got the Sonics kit in yours too? So did you put the shorter? Did you have to put the shorter link in the trans and everything for the TV? No shorter link. So you got the factory link in there. Yeah, that was the shorter link is part of the SureCure kit. It came with this one, did anyway. Obviously, the 4L60s don't have a cable. Corey, maybe not. I'm not sure. I'd like to. Depends on how things go. Pretty much, I'm kind of relying on stuff that I've got here around the house that I've been selling to raise money for the projects. On my right. What, the cat? Yeah, that's which one is that? That looks like Foxy. She's the youngest. She's an ornery too. We have 4 of them. The one on my left shoulder is Yoda. She was a barn cat at mother-in-law's. We've had her. Well, shoot, she's probably 15 years old. Foxy's like 3. But Corey, I'd like to. Like I said, it just depends on how things flow this year. Like I said, I've got some title issues with Scarlet, and until I get the title issues straightened out, I don't want to do a whole lot with that car yet in case something happens. You know what I'm saying? But once I find out, everything else is hunky dory and I'm good to go, then and really start hunkering down. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I came up with Yoda because when she was real young, you'd scratch her chin and she'd lift her head up and she'd have this little brown patch on the bottom. And the first time I seen that, I thought of Yoda from Star Wars. And it just stuck, even though Yoda, I think, was probably a male. But yeah, I want to get Scarlet painted. I've got a guy I've kind of bartered some deals, so he's gonna paint the front end, or I might. But what I want to do is I want to paint the engine compartment and the front apron. Where the factory get pretty lax on painting that kind of stuff. I want to take the fenders off and everything and clean it up and paint it. Since I've got a donor, I want to take the once I get the engine running in the donor, then I'll pull it out. I know that doesn't make any sense, but I want to pull the cross member out of it, strip it, get it repowder coated. Or I might just do it in the driveway with some rattle cans and some engine enamel. I don't know. Depends on how finances go. I know that it's all up to you all and sharing it with everything and getting some support, if you know what I mean. That's what I'm kind of counting on. But yeah, I'd really like to get going on that before I lose it. But too many irons in the fire right now to get straightened out before anything like that happens. But I got that donor. I still need to finish up I got sidetracked doing the transmission stuff, and I have to do everything outdoors because I don't have a garage or anything to put it in. I've got that little shop, but I've got no way to get anything in there. Plus, there's so much plunder in there. The wife and I are going to have a huge garage sale and try to clean out a lot of the stuff that we've been accumulating over the years. And I can't even use my enclosed trailer because it's got plunder in it that we want to sell. Yep, I've got who I call Charlie Brown, which is my Mercury Sable. I've got to get that dude running. It's a good running car, just the fuel pump went out of it. The ethanol took care of the fuel pump for me. And it needs a front wheel bearing. And I had a guy, I was in a bind when I was up north, and so I left this car with a buddy of mine and asked him to fix the exhaust and something else on it. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, when I got it back, the transmission mysteriously leaked. And I just rebuilt that transmission. And now it's peeing when it's running, it's coming out of the bell housing. So I don't know if the seal failed or it got cut or something. I'm not quite sure what happened, but kind of makes me mad. I spent all that time and everything overhauling that dude, and then I get it back and it leaks. So not a happy camper about that, but I need to get it running, get it fixed, and then offer it up to somebody. Because, like I said, it's really a pretty decent car. Got high mileage on it. I bought it to be a loaner car when I had my shop up north. and it never came to light. I had a couple of them I was going to do that way, but it never came to light. So this was the last of the cars that I had left over. But yeah, my dream on Scarlet is to be able to get this thing going, bring it back to its glory days, so to speak, and do some tours with it. I'd like to be able to take it to a car show. I'd like to have something in a car show. I'd like to have something to take to a car show. And, you get the sense of pride when you build something. You guys know that. You say Torinos, and I can remember growing up, my mom and dad had I think it was a Grand Torino, but it was a wagon, and it was brown. I'm pretty sure it was a Torino. I think the thing even had a 400M in it. But I can remember growing up and us kids, my sister and I, running down the stairs, and I was young at the time. And she was all hurried up and getting the back seat and stuff like that. And she pulled the door close on my fingers. Remember that vividly. Of course, at that age, I bawled my butt off, but didn't break them, but it sure hurt like a dickens. But they had that for a while, and then they sold it to some friends of ours, and they drove it until the thing finally quit. It was a heck of a wagon, that's for sure. Had the secret storage compartment in the rear bed floor. It didn't have a rear facing seat or anything like that, but it was a big car. We grew up in a split level, and I can remember Mom and Dad putting that in the garage, and they had to kind of angle it sideways to get it in there because it was so long. Of course, then my first car was a 69 Bonneville, and that thing was just every bit as long as that Torino was. That car was cool, man. You could pile half the high school in it. It had a 428 in it, and my dad goes, when I had to retire that thing, my dad goes, it says, I seem to remember those back tires were like new when I gave that car to you, and now there's no tread left on them. You know anything about that? I says, nope, don't know a thing, Dad. But Corey, there's something cool about wagons. I love wagons. I think they're just bad to the bone. When I was going to school up in Iowa back in 90 and 91, I bought what was this thing? A Cutlass Cruiser wagon. Was it a cruiser wagon? It was the G body at that time. I don't remember what year it was, but it had the 5.7 liter diesel in it. And it was in Iowa, and it was cold at that time. And you try getting one of those old diesels started when the glow plug circuit fails. But when you got the thing running, man, it ran like a top. I mean, it had all sorts of power, ran good. Ended up selling it to somebody else pretty dirt cheap because at the time I didn't know enough about them. I was still pretty green in the repair field. I just look back at all the stuff and all the experiences I've done with cars, and it's just crazy. Now, I'm no brainiac by any means. There's plenty of people much smarter than I am, but it's pretty cool. I've learned a lot, that's for sure. I love the Nomads. Always wanted one of those. Wife wants a 57 Bel Air. But if you find one of those that's in decent shape, you're going to pay out the nose for one of them. They can be. The newer ones aren't too bad. When they came out with the new Duramax, I got my feet wet in those pretty quick. They're no longer new, but I'm talking 01 and 02 when they were first come out with that Duramax diesel in the pickups. One of the dealerships I was at the time, the diesel tech that usually worked on them went on vacation, and they left me to work on these things. I swore I didn't want to touch another one, and I got pretty decent at them because the LB7s were terrible about injectors, and I got 2 injector jobs and a high pressure fuel pump all in the same week. And if you've never worked on one of those Duramaxes, there is a bunch of stuff you got to take off the top of the engine to get to where you need to go. It's ridiculous. And of course, on those first ones, the injectors were underneath the valve covers. They got smart in the later years, like 04. Is 03, something like that, 03 or 04. They started moving the injectors outside the valve cover, and then it wasn't too bad. You didn't have to take half the engine apart to get them out. Bailey, does the floor taste good? My dog is laying on the floor and she's licking the floor on her side. I guess the floor tastes good. Anyway. Yeah, I need to figure out a better way to get some better signal out there in the shop, and I can do some live streams out there in the shop because I'm sure the camera is better than the one that's on this monitor. Oh, whoops. It's pretty easy to do. Leave that return line gasket off. Of course, they'll leak like nobody's business. Well, the return line, not so bad, unless you got one that's leaking past quite a bit. Learned a lot about injector. I don't remember what exactly they called that, but you can look at the balance rate of the injectors and how much more it's applying. You can tell if you got a bad injector. Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't. It wouldn't have been my response either. I'll tell you a story, and it's a true one. I had built this 6L80 for the Suburban, here this last week, and it had a catastrophic failure. The torque converter filled the case full of metal and everything else, so I had to rebuild it, get it all back together, get it air checked, everything passed, put it all together, get this thing in the truck, and go out for the test drive, and first gear's slipping bad. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Reverse is stout. It's fine. So I get it to shift into second. Second gear slipping. I was like, really? So told the boss. So I pull it back in, take the valve body down, and on the 6L80s you can air check the clutch packs from underneath without having to pull it out. And so I air checked it, and I air checked the clutch that there's 4. Let me think here. There's 5 clutch packs and a 6L80. There is a 3-5 reverse, a 1-2-3-4, a 4-5-6, a 2-6, and a low reverse clutch. All right. So at any given time on a 6L80, there's at least 2 clutches applied. No less than that. So I pretty much narrowed it down, since the 3-5 reverse is on one pack, and reverse was solid, and the low reverse, the low reverse clutch was solid. So that eliminated those 2 clutches. So the only other one it could be is the 1-2-3-4 clutch. So I air checked that. I air checked the 1-2-3-4 clutch after I pulled the valve body down, and sure enough, it was just blowing air. I'm like, oh, what the heck happened there? So long story short, I ended up having to pull the transmission back out of the Suburban, and it was a 4-wheel drive nonetheless, of course, had to be. So I pulled this thing back out and took the clutch back apart. It's in a housing. The 1-2-3-4 and the 3-5 reverse is in one housing. There's 2 clutches in it. Anyway, so I pull the clutches out of the drum, and sure enough, and I don't know if I can show you that or not. I'll get my chair to move here. Let's see if I can pull this up. You may not be able to see it, but see that little piece of rubber right there? That is part of the seal for the 1-2-3-4 clutch. Somehow I'd have managed to cut that dude putting that seal in, and that's the first one in 15 years that I actually, for something I did that I actually failed. You can see there's a little better picture of the drum. How it's got the It's got an inner piston and an outer piston, and then you just stack it on top of each other. It's a really cool setup the way they got it. But anyway, I managed to cut that dang seal, and of course it was leaking right past that seal. So I ended up pulling that thing out. I started on it yesterday morning, pulled it out, got it tore down. Went and resealed that whole drum, put everything back together, put it back in the Suburban, all in one day. I was hoofing it on that one, trying to get that thing back in there. And of course, went and drove it this morning. It was fine. It was just perfect. I was like, it just burns you up because, I mean, I do take a lot of pride in my work. And then to do something like that, I'd got in a hurry and missed it and didn't pay attention. And it bit me in the butt. So it happens, though. It really does. And that's what everybody else tells me, too, says it happens. Yeah, usually there's a choice word in front of that, too, Stephen, but it's not appropriate. It is, but not on air. But, I'm nowhere from perfect, so here's something that you guys might find interesting too. This is one I had to put a valve body in an 8L45 today, and they're kind of unique. They've got, let's see if I can get that thing to focus on there. I have to get right up close to it. There's that little number right there. And that number is on the 8L45s, the 8L90s, they've got what they call a TUN and a PUN, as in Paul. And PUN is part unique number, and TUN is transmission unique number. So if you have to replace either the transmission or the valve body, you have to, when you program this thing, you have to tell GM that you've changed the valve body, that it has all the characterization. The valves are all characterized for the way they flow and the way they shift. And it updates that information in the cloud for reference down the road if anybody was ever to service it and say, hey, this has got this particular valve body in this particular transmission. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like a genealogy thing. And it's really unique. They started doing that on all the 8 speeds. They do it on the 10 speeds too. But it makes it kind of more of a pain in the butt to program. But what's new? I was looking for Mr. Lawson hasn't showed up, and he was really wanting to come into the cloud tonight. Hey, have you guys Big Brother is watching? Oh yeah, all the time. Have y'all heard of the Stereo app? It's not available on PC based from what I've seen. I don't blame you, man. I'm telling you, these new ones are getting bad. Um, in fact, on the 9 speeds that they're putting in the front drive cars, they don't even want us going in it. The 9 speed and the new Corvette transmission, the DCT, they don't want you going in those either. The DCT, as far as you can go in that transmission, is replacing external components like maybe a cooler or a TCM. They'll let you put the clutch packs in, but that's it. I mean, you can't touch that transmission. If it fails, they want you to send it back to them. But Roy, you probably seen a lot of the older stuff. Because lots changed in 8 years, that's for sure. But I admire the guys that do all the different brands, because I mean, not all of them are the same. They don't function the same. You have to understand. I mean, as long as you can understand the theory, you can pretty much do what you need to do with them. But all of them have these little bitty idiosyncrasies that how things go together, how they function. So they, like I said, I've got an admiration for a lot of the guys that do everything, not just GM or Ford or Chrysler. I've done some Chryslers. I've done some Fords. I've done one Isuzu. It was an Isuzu box truck. It was an Ison Warner. It was a 4-speed automatic, and that was a neat transmission. I'm going to tell you, it was really cool how that thing went together. But so Roy, did you? So on the bench, did you had to do an RR too, or you just did the overalls? If you're still on here, my count's been going up and down tonight, so I still don't have a big room. Anyway, while you all are pondering that, yep, the Allison is neat. I've been in a couple of Allisons. I've been in my own Allison doing an update on it. In fact, it's been setting the code. Anytime it gets cold here, it yeah, Roy, I would totally agree to that. But Toyota doesn't really want you in any of their transmissions anymore either. Honda, I don't know if the Honda guys still do it. A bench to me wouldn't be too bad, as long as they tell you, as long as they at least tell you what it was doing. I mean, it sucks so bad when you don't get a good description of what is going on, and your service writers don't ask the right questions. Even if you give them a list or something like that, here's what you need to ask. Because otherwise you're going to the transmissions. Okay, so what's supposed to be wrong with this thing? So, did you work for like a big company for like Certified Transmission or some nationwide transmission company, something like that, Roy? Anyway, while you're pondering that, the stereo app, there's a couple of people out there that I've watched that have been doing stereo. They're kind of like podcasts where you can hear the voices of whoever gets on there with you, which I thought that was pretty cool, but it's only for iOS or Android apps. I don't know how well it would work. It won't work on a PC, which is kind of a bum deal, but I'm not quite sure on that. I thought it would be kind of cool. I thought about that. I thought about it doing Zoom or something like that. I don't know if there's a limit to how many people you can get in a Zoom, or if it costs anything, but the only reason why I do it on YouTube obviously is for uh supplemental income, which isn't much by any means. It isn't much. I haven't figured out how to share it with everybody. Yeah, unlike you, Roy, I had my own place for 7 years, but I did both parts of it. I did the RR and the repairs, but I tried not to do that because they take up a lot of time, and when you're a shop owner, you don't have time to get away from that. Of course, you know that. It's tough to have your own shop, and you expect it done a certain way, but you can't find anybody that does it the way you want it done. So excuse me. But I'm gonna check into the Zoom thing and see about the stereo thing too. Might be something to check in for both of them. Something a little different. I don't know that I've got enough people coming in here to make it worthwhile. I basically get on here for you guys to, if you got something you want to ask me or because I know it's not to see my beautiful face, because that, unless you got a really good filter, that it ain't for my looks, that's for sure. Really? Huh. I'll have to check into that. I'm still kind of new to the social media type of deal. Well, maybe not Facebook. I don't even get on Facebook much. And I have to say sorry for one of my biggest contributors to the Facebook, and that would be Mr. Jerry Morgan. I read a lot of his stuff. I'll have to check into that, Stephen, to see what I can come up with, because I think that would be kind of cool. Goodness gracious. There's something else I was going to say, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. Must not have been too terribly important. But it was another question I meant to ask you guys, and I can't think of what it was. Roy, yes, I do. As a matter of fact. Yeah, I'd love just to work at home. But I like doing the butta tonight, apparently. If I had a lift here at the shop, here at the house, I would probably work here. I've got enough people asking me to do side work that I could probably make it worthwhile. I just like to build stuff. I really do. I really like the transmissions, but it's a little different when you do them as a repair versus doing, performance stuff and stuff like, I'm building this one for L to the W. I reached out to him when he was having all the trouble and said, hey, says, I'd love to be able to help you if you're interested. And he said, sure. So we met. He lives up north part of Florida. And so we met. Super nice guy. Genuine, nice to talk to. It's everything you'd hope when you'd meet somebody new, is just that they're genuine and solid foundation for beliefs. Pretty neat. Nice guy, super nice guy. Anybody else got any questions? Let me ask you, do you guys get my notification when I become live, or that I'm gonna be live, or other than the post that I did? I mean, because usually I try to get on here about a half hour early and post something saying, well, setting up for the live stream. I thought the way it works is it's supposed to notify you a half hour or whatever time that you're going to do that I'm going to be live at that time. I don't know how it works. I really don't. I know this camera quality is not the greatest, and I apologize for that. That's what I got right now. One of these days, I am going to get somebody recommended a DJI action camera. I'm going to get an action camera, either, like I said, either a GoPro or this DJI that was recommended. DJI was recommended by Hybrid Muscle Garage. He said that's what he's got. The only thing I found kind of odd about the DJI is the fact that you have to register the camera to be able to use it after 5 times. Other than that, you won't be able to get the videos or anything off of it, which I think is kind of strange. But I would love to have one of those to be able to do point of view. Yeah, Roy, I've got one for you. my worst transmission nightmare that I ever got was when I had a short stint at Ford. I worked for Ford for about 6 months when I was in between trying to find a place at a GM dealer. I worked for a Ford dealer for a while as their transmission tech. And the worst one I got, they gave me a Ford Taurus wagon, newer body style, that had the 3-liter Duratec in it with a CVT in it. And it was a Ford designed CVT. And I had more problems with that transmission. I had it out twice and couldn't fix it. I mean, there was something that I was missing. I had no schooling on that transmission whatsoever. There was no classes that I could take on that transmission. When I asked my boss for it, he says, "I can't help you." I says, "Then get me a box to stick in it." He said, "Nope." I says, "You need to take it out again and fix it." I was like, "Well, I need to give you my letter of resignation and I'm out of here because I'm not doing that thing a third time because it's terrible anyway." But that's got to be my worst transmission nightmare that I had was that CVT. I've never done anything like that before in my life. And what's funny is the service manager that I had, he says, "What's the big deal? They're all nuts and bolts." This coming from a guy that probably has never turned a nut or a bolt in his life, at least not to that caliber. And he said, "They're all nuts and bolts. They're all just the same stuff." No, they're not. They are far from being that way. Did a 4R70. That's kind of my arch nemesis. Another Ford one. And sometimes it just takes you knowing little quirks about particular transmissions. Just like when I started doing transmissions for dealership, was in the height of the 4T65 and the 4L60Es. They were dropping like flies. And there he is. Your ears must have been burning because I was just talking about you. But yeah, it was. I had a real good mentor on that particular transmission at one of the dealerships I was at. And he taught me a lot of things about it. And then I just picked up on other stuff as I went. And that's how I got to learn how to diagnose it and repair that transmission pretty easy. But speaking of which, Hybrid Muscle Garages just showed up. And like I said, your ears must have been burning because we were talking about cameras. And I said that you'd recommended that DJI camera. And I thought it was kind of odd how you have to register that camera. They're fairly cheap, but you have to register it, which I thought was kind of weird. Did you have to do that with yours? I know another question I wanted to ask. Only for warranty, huh? Okay. Interesting. My question I was going to ask is, when I post the videos to come up, if I was to set it up as a premiere and open the chat, then would you all be interested in something like that? By the way, a new video drops tomorrow at noon Eastern time. Oh, goodness. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm getting tired. It's been a long day. But y'all think on that last question, and let me know what you think of that idea. Here in about 3 minutes, I'm going to sign off for the night. And I think I'm going to take my old butt to bed. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. You know, when I started this whole channel, I never thought that I would be where I'm at now. It's crazy. You know, it's kind of like the old saying when they, what was it? It was in what was the name of that baseball movie? I don't think it was Tom Hanks that was in it. I think it was, oh shoot, I can see his face in my mind. I just can't place his name. Whenever you build it, they will come. But I'm telling you, I never thought. I'm almost at, I think when I looked at almost 1,360 subscribers, it just floors me. I never thought I would be there. I mean, I've got Field of Dreams. That's it. They built the ball diamond out there in the middle of a cornfield. That was a great movie. I'm a huge movie buff. I love movies. Yeah, I like to watch, to kind of catch up on the news going on there. I watched the Facts Matter with Roman from the Epic Times. They've got a lot of good information out there, and when he premieres his videos, the chat room's open, but you know, obviously he's not live. It's pre-recorded, but they just open the chat session. No, I didn't. Oh, you're talking about the transmission table. Yes, I did see that. And yeah, those, you know, those tables looked like some that I bought from a company named Burroughs when I had my shop. Roy, unfortunately, I have to work on Sunday. I got to get that transmission done. So the wife's got to work tomorrow, so I'll work out in the shop, try to get this L to the W 700R4 done. But yeah, like I said, those benches look like the ones I bought. I went to SEMA in 2011, and I met the company Burroughs, and and they had some stainless top benches that were fantastic. In fact, one of them looked just like the looked just like the one that you modified. It right down to the plastic or the cover that was on top of it. You run across the steel when you got those for free. Somebody gave them to you. Man, those are some nice tables. Yeah, I know they're expensive. Anytime you get into stainless, they're expensive. I'd actually bought a transmission teardown bench through Burroughs too, and I remember it not being too cheap. And the only thing that I didn't like about that particular bench was how thin the top was. I wish the top would have been thicker, thicker stainless. I had one at one of the shops I worked at that was thicker stainless, designed almost just like that thing, teardown bench. It was great. It had a pretty stout top on it. Yeah, I don't think the tops on mine were that thick, but they were super nice. They were super nice benches. Once I get my welder up and going, I plan on building me a new tear down a better bench setup, because I mean I'm short on bench space as it is in that little shop I got. I'd like to build a nice solid bench and then put some like toolboxes underneath of it. Y'all up for seeing shop upgrades too? My little shop that I got here. You want me to film any of that stuff? I plan on making some airline. I'm making some airline out of copper pipe just because I've got it and it's fairly cheap to do. I also plan on putting air conditioning out in my little shop for this summer. I bought a used unit. The only problem with using PVC for an airline is it can shatter pretty easily. With the extreme temperature changes that we get down here, I don't think I want to do PVC. Like I said, the copper pipe is what I've got. So I'm pretty decent at sweating pipe together too. And it'll last forever. Plus, I run my air compressor at full line pressure, which is 175 pounds. This compressor I bought's a Matco. I bought it back in 2013 when I got my second shop. I didn't have an air compressor. It needed one, and I bought it through Matco because I had credit then to do. And it's one of those. It's basically an Ingersoll Rand. 24.5 SCFM at 175 PSI. This thing will flat put some air out. But I plan on running it around and doing some drops, and I'll put a regulator on the end of it, doing my transmission stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how far it's going to go. I mean, I'd like to really build me a shop out back big enough that I can do what I want with, and I just got dreams, but everybody's got to have dreams. That's what makes everything go around. But I dreamed on building an 80 by 60 shop with upstairs in it, and downstairs, and have making me a clean room for doing assembly on stuff. Keeps dust and dirt, and have it sealed off from the rest of the shop, and have its own like mini split system in it. Of course, the whole shop would be air conditioned, but I would probably put solar on top of it to help compensate for the amount of power that it would take to cool the place, with some good insulation since it gets so hot down here. But it's all dreams. Yeah, they do. The problem is I don't know if I'm going to get it done before I, take my permanent nap. Only good Lord knows when it's going to be my time to go, but I ain't getting any younger, that's for sure. I want to enjoy it while I can still move. But, hopefully I make the right decisions down the road. And if you lose something, it's gone forever. Ain't that the truth? If you're losing something like that, you'll probably never be able to. The only reason why I wanted a 60 by 80 is for the depth. Because I'm thinking, if by chance we ever sold this place where we're at, it would be enticing to have something that was big enough to put like one of those big Class A motorhomes in. There's a lot of people that do that stuff or come down here, or if they travel or something like that, they want some place that they can store their camper. And I'm the same way. That down here in the Florida sun, it's just beat our fifth wheel up. It'd be nice to be able to have some place to put it out of the weather. Plus, I got my box trailer. You can keep things a lot nicer that way, and I like to keep things nice. But I can't do it with as much as I work and, the side work that I'm doing now. But if you guys are interested in seeing some of those projects that I do, I'll film them. Sure you can. You can reach me via email is the best way. And then if we want to exchange numbers, then we can do it there, but I'm not going to do it over YouTube. But that's my email address there if you want it. It's the same as my page. The only one that's different is if you follow me on Instagram, and I don't know how this will come up, but it's I don't know how that comes up, but that's my Instagram address. I don't know how to make the Instagram logo on there or how that works, but I do post a few things on Instagram. Yeah, Roy, for me, it's my hands. My hands is what bothers me most. This joint right here on this hand, I broke this joint when I was young. And of course, you see, I got freaking bear paws. And this thing gets to hurting some days. It hurts so bad I can't really move my hand. The recall of the 07 Silverado. Bill, I'm sorry, I don't remember what the yeah, for me it's a leave. A leave works best for me. If it gets really bad, I can take a leave, which is naproxen. I'm good with that. But recall of the 07 Silverado. Bill, I don't even remember what the recall was about. I know there's some recalls on the new Silverados. I don't remember what the wow, I didn't even know about the hub bearing recall. That's pretty hairy. Oh, the passenger side airbag inflator module. Okay, so you got one of the Takata airbag modules, is what you got. It is what that is. That's what that recall is. I forgot all about that one. But yeah, we've been seeing a few of those come in. But that's the Takata airbag module recall on the passenger airbags. We've had no problems with the driver's airbags. We haven't had any problems with the passenger airbags, but it's a mandatory recall. So that's what it is. And that one just came out in February, a month ago. Yeah, a month ago this year. But that's the passenger side inflator module. It has to do with I guess they go by zone ratings or something like that. Yeah, that's the one you're talking about. But yeah, it's not just GM that's had that recall though, y'all. When I worked for Toyota, holy cow, you should have seen all the stupid airbag recalls Toyota had. It was just asinine, and they couldn't keep up with them, and sometimes parts weren't available. And some people would get furious, didn't want to drive it. But there was a ton of airbag recalls for Toyota, and it was all manufacturers based. Like Takata makes airbags for almost every manufacturer that's out there, almost every one of them, and they found that they could have the way they were designed. Basically, the recall states if the thing was happening to deploy, that it could shoot metal fragments out and cause serious injury. Which, yeah, I mean, it's just like having a grenade in there almost. And it makes about the same amount of noise. If you've ever heard an airbag go off and go off inside of a car, they are stupid loud. We've set them off, because when you get one that you replace, like they come in a special package, but you can't send them back undeployed. You have to deploy the airbag before you can return them. And so we had to deploy them so we can send them back to warranty. And man, the destruction them airbags can do, it's crazy. He cracked me up, Roy. Yeah, well, it's job security. Good night, sir. We'll see you on the neck and see you on the flip side. I've never seen an e-brake cable break just out of the blue. Roy, that is active fuel management. Here's something that you guys need to know. In 2020, on the Silverados, they changed from an active fuel management to dynamic fuel management. And well, yeah, but Bill, but they went to dynamic fuel management on the 20s and 21s. And I just spent a good better part of a week on and off diagnosing this truck for a vibration that it felt like a shudder at 70 mile an hour. I had the higher ups involved in it for technical assistance center. I was talking to engineers, and we had a field engineer stop by. That he's a great guy and he's smart as a whip. Holy cow, this kid's smart. And I say kid because he's like early 30s maybe, and he is very smart. But anyway, he comes up to me and says, I start explaining him what it's doing, and he goes, yep. And it turns out that he goes, you're not going to fix that. I says, what are you talking about? He says it has everything to do with the new dynamic fuel management. And what it basically says is the old active fuel management would drop 4 cylinders at a time, depending on, obviously the load of the vehicle and the terrain that you're at and how fast you were going. Well, it would only drop 4 cylinders. It would drop either it'd drop 1, 7, 4, and 6. Those are the 4 cylinders that would drop. On this new system that they've got, they can drop any of the cylinders at any time. In fact, they can take it down to they can take it all the way down to a single cylinder if the conditions were correct. So that thing would run on 1 cylinder. Now, it wouldn't just be 1 cylinder. It would alternate which cylinder it dropped just to keep the heat up in the engine. But What it was is this thing was running on probably 3 or 4 cylinders, probably 3 cylinders at the time, and it's causing a harmonic imbalance in the engine that would transfer all the way through the drivetrain. And I could sit there and I could turn the torque converter on and off. And if you turn it off, you could still feel it, but it wasn't as bad. But when you locked the converter up, it was almost constant. Right at about 69, 70 mile an hour, this thing would vibrate. And it felt like a torque converter shutter because these 8-speeds are notorious for the torque converter shutter. But it didn't have enough miles on it really to have anything like that happen. Long story short, when the field engineer says, you're not going to fix that, it says, you might as well not just waste your time. It says, that's fine with me. So I gave it back to the service manager. Here you go. It says, call them up, tell them that's normal, because there's nothing you can do with it. I mean, the only thing you can do that you probably solve it is put it every time you drive it, put it in manual 7th, because that disables the fuel management from operation. You don't have that 8th gear, but you could run it that way all day long, because I don't think it will let you leave it unplugged because of the way the system's set up. But if it's Sean's like he goes, yeah, give me HP tuners and I can go in there and fix that right now. And basically in HP tuners you can disable the I don't know how easy you can get in a computer on a 20 and a 21, or if you even can. I think you can, but go in there and shut it off. Of course, that would instantly void the warranty, obviously, because it covers all that stuff. And anytime you modify the computer, that's a nope, you're done. So that's one of those do it at your own risk deals, if that's what bothers you that bad. Because they were wanting me resettle motor mounts and all that stuff. I says, look, guys, it ain't going to fix it. I says, I know it's not going to fix it. I mean, I've been doing this too long. And yeah, anyway, I'm just getting here rattling now. But y'all, I'm gonna hit the sack. I'm cooked for the night. I greatly appreciate everybody that came in tonight and said hey, or said a few words or sentences or conversations. Yeah, I know. We have had a few issues with engine mounts breaking on the previous body style, not the 20 and 21s yet, but they've actually got bulletins for resettling the mounts and so on and so forth. But y'all have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for being a subscriber, if you are one, and supporting my channel. Tell your friends, help me get some likes and some more subscribers. I that's what supports the channel. So it doesn't cost you anything. I do appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Don't forget, there's a video that comes out tomorrow at noon Eastern. So we'll see you later. Have a good evening, y'all. Bye-bye.